Hello and welcome to our weekly political program on Lagos Television. I am Ajibola Ojeshola. This is the platform through which we discuss trending political issues in the country. On June 12, 1993, Nigeria had its freest and fairest of election, and from some of the results released during that election, there were pointers that late Chief MK Abiola already won that election. Unfortunately, that freest of election in the history of Nigeria was annulled by the then military president, Ibrahim Babangida, 32 years after the then president of Nigeria, who was a military man. Ibrahim Babangida actually confessed while he was launching his book, A Journey in Service, in Abuja last week, that Chief MK Abiola actually won that June 12 presidential election in Nigeria. This evening on the program, I will be speaking with one of the sons of the late winner of that June 12, 1993 presidential election, Abdulmumuni Abiola. But before we start our conversation tonight, we'll take a very short break to bring you the summary of some political developments in the country. We'll be right back. You're still watching our weekly political program on Lagos Television, the Pendulum. I did say before that break that our focus tonight is going to be on that confession of the then military president, who was the one that organized the June 12, 1993 presidential election in Nigeria. Last week, he did confess openly that indeed late Chief MK Abiola actually won that election. Joining us tonight this evening to give us his own perspective as to the confession of the Ibrahim Babangida during that launching of his book, A Journey in Service, is one of the sons of late Chief MK Abiola, Abdulmumuni Abiola. It's a pleasure to have you this evening.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, let's go into business directly. That confession by Ibrahim Babangida last week, saying that your dad actually won that June 12 presidential election, how did he come to you? Was it shocking?
No, it wasn't shocking. It wasn't shocking. You know, the revelation you're referring to were actually in two parts. The first part was the acknowledgement that Abiola had actually won the 1993 elections. I was about 8 years old, thereabouts, when the 1993 elections, when we had the 1993 elections. So I, at that age of 8, knew that Abiola had won that election. You know, it was in the atmosphere. You know, there was a lot of, you could see there was excitement. There was more like a festive environment. You have to understand that Nigerians from all corners of the country spoke with one voice on that day, and that voice was loud and clear. You know, nobody. You know, there's this famous people say that even the deaf and the blind knew that Abiola had won. Yeah, it was basically the excitement was palpable. It wasn't even now. You didn't have to even say anything. You could feel the energy through your skin, you know. So I could tell, even as a kid, I could tell that Abiola had won that election, you know. But then the second part of his revelation, where he expressed remorse and you know, a willingness to, if given another chance, to do things differently, I thought was a little bit more substantial for me. You know, I took that more as, you know, as humans, we're capable of making mistakes. We're prone to error. The most important thing is acknowledging when we do make those mistakes and trying to seek forgiveness. And I think that was what he was trying to get across. And that part is what I just said. You know, and for me, I just say alhamdulillah. You know, it's more like exercise, and it's silly to me because this is something we're talking about 32 years ago. You know, his admission now is not going to do anything to change it, but what we can do is, you know, acknowledge it. But I don't believe we should dwell on the past. We should focus on how we can make a Nigeria that is better and is more inclusive and is united in a way that would honor everybody who sacrificed their lives, including both my parents and hundreds of thousands of Nigerians who lost their lives during that whole, you know, after the annulment. You know, it's triggered a series of events that led to the deaths of Nigerian people, and I think that you know, so for their memory, we acknowledge the traumatic events that happened, but we forge ahead in a vision to make sure that that sacrifice was not in vain.
I do agree with you that as humans, we are prone to errors, we are prone to make mistakes. But does IBB have to wait for 32 years before coming out with that facts that indeed your dad won that election? And when you look at the number of people that lost their lives, the numbers of properties that were destroyed, could he have done better confessing earlier than now?
Like this, like I said, for me, I think there have been several times where he's granted interviews, giving alternative facts or alternative reasons for the annulment of the election. Like I said, this is still an exercise in futility. It's like our there are going to be more revelations. The story is not even over. I'm sure there are going to be more things that we're going to hear about that whole time. I think that for me, because when I look back at at those events, it's very personal because there were some personal things that happened to me. There was the loss of both my parents and everything. But for me, I think that that pain and the anger will not go far. I try to channel it into something more productive, and that is, how do we get Nigeria to a place where we can all coexist, where we all believe in ourselves, the way we did during the 1993 elections. So I think it's painful, and I don't think there's ever going to be a time when we would say we're fully recovered. It's like a wound. You might not see the physical scar anymore, the physical wound, but there's still a psychological aspect to it that we need to work on. But the only way we can do that is if we do that collectively. So we're healing collectively. I choose to have this mindset that our better days are ahead of us, no matter so all these things that we're hearing and the more things that we're going to hear in the future, will just it should be used to reinforce our drive towards getting us to a place where all Nigerians are equal, and the people's votes and the people and when the people speak, they listen to. And so I think that is more of where I want to focus, so that I'm not. The fact is, what is done is done. Either he's saying it 2 years ago or 5 years ago, they're gone. The most important thing is my father was a messenger, but he also had a message, and I think the message is an enduring one. And if we can, do some of the things that he had in his message, I think that might be something we can work on. I think that might be a better way to honor the memory and protect the legacy, rather than dwelling on what we can't really do anything about. It's something that is already done, and in Islam, it teaches you to forgive, not necessarily for the victim, but because of your sanity and not being bogged down or dwelling on something that really is not in your control.
A lot of criticism has trailed that confession by Ibrahim Babangida while he was launching his book. Do you think that those who were criticizing Ibrahim Babangida, are they justified?
Like I said, people have opinions on various situations. I think they rightly have the right to decide or to have their opinions on certain things. I just choose not to partake in that. I think, like we can, like I said, the issue is not what Babangida said or how he said it. The issue really is, where is Nigeria today, and how do we move Nigeria forward in a way, in a place maybe not for my generation, but even for maybe my children or their children. I think what we have to understand is democracy is not a destination, it's a journey, and we have to just keep working at it. So what this revelation did too was to put that matter to rest. It's part of the healing process. It's not the end of it. It's just one of the healing parts of the process that we have to go through as a nation to get to where we need to be. We need to understand that we are the ones who have that power. If we don't know nothing now, we know that our votes did count and Abiola did win. the person we want. What we now need to know is that, bro, how can we get that voice back? How can we talk with that same energy to want to make a lasting change? And I'm working toward, and I think that's where I'm focusing more of my energy. Not necessarily what he said. Like I told you, the first part I already knew about. The second part, he's seeking forgiveness. He knows what he did. You know, it's like, you know, hindsight is 2020. You know, when after you make a decision today, you know exactly where that decision is going to lead. So sometimes you make decisions thinking you're doing it in the interest of something, and over time you start to see you know, the errors in that judgment, and then so I think now he's just seeking for some
Forgiveness.
kind of you know, like, you know, I think he must know, you know, like, but the most important thing for us as a nation and as a young nation at that is to work together to strengthen this democracy that we do have. It's not perfect, but we can work and make it perfect. I think that's the angle I want to,
Okay, so,
take it.
what are those vital lessons that we can learn as Democrats, as Nigerians, from what we experienced in 1993 to make our democracy better today?
Oh, okay. Well, first thing we had a common drive. You know, there were different times, so we had a common ambition. And another thing that we can take from that 1993 elections, you know, we had a debate. You know, there were two candidates, and they actually came out and expressed themselves to the Nigerian people. You know, I think that is also important. It's part of that democratic process where, as a leader, not a ruler, as a leader, I convey my vision to my people in a way that they understand. And if they don't understand, I have to keep explaining myself until they do understand. You know, what we have and what we've had over the years, we've had successive rulers who just dictate and, you know, they just do whatever they want to without having a conversation. Now, if I don't know the plan, I can't really help you in getting to that destination. If I don't know where you're coming from, I can't tell you where you're going. You know, so, or I can't get to where you're going because I don't know where, you know, I can't, you know, the idea is you have to tell me where you want to go and then I can give you directions. So I think what we need in Nigeria to understand is, first of all, power is already vested in us. You know, the last elections, we had about 93 million people with voters cards and only 23 million people voted. Now, for me, I think we need to have more participation from the followership angle, and then also the leaders too have a role to play, because when they make promises and they don't fulfill on those promises, what happens is you erode the trust of the people. And when that happens, you want to have a collective vision, or a collective or like a critical mass of people to drive the nation forward. So what we first of all need to do is, you know, try to emulate some of the things that Abiola was talking about. Abiola was more of a peacemaker. He never talked about it. He never wanted anybody to be violent. He even, when they were even leading him into prison, he was so quick to say, Babangida is my friend. You know, the guy that is getting, you know, so the man was, first of all, showcasing his leadership skills in a way that people may be able to understand, and in a way that I think is exemplary, and it shows what a leader should do, especially in that kind of situation.
I know that the political landscape is quite different now compared to what we had in 1993. But then, NEC then under Professor Ofrin Wosu adopted option A4 for that election, and that made it so transparent and, of course, credible, so to say. So, in this age and time, can we still follow that path of option A4 to make our elections more transparent?
No, it's a different time. Like I said, before we had only two parties, but now it's totally different. I think there are like 99 parties. But I think this is also the beauty of democracy. You know, people should, but I think what we should focus more on is what are the ideologies of these parties. Once you can boil down to what the ideology is, I can now decide if I want to join a party or not. What we normally have now is not really an idealistic, like an idea-based kind of political system. It's more of a capture system where if I have the power, then that's all it is. We need to know who, because inherently we already know who we are. So once I know that this party believes in these things, and if this is what I believe in, then this is the party I'm with. I think we also want to participate in a way where we are intentional with our decisions. So we're paying our dues to the party. So there's no real state, there's no way a single person can take the structure away from can undemocratize the structure. If you don't have a democratic process to begin with, you can't come up with a democratic leader. And I think that's the issue here.
Okay. When you look at the 2023 general elections, it had different colorations of ethnicity and religion, and that did not play out in 1993. How do we take some vital lessons away from 1993 to ensure that we do not have a repeat of what we had in 2023 as we look forward to another election in 2027?
Well, I think what we need to do is, first of all, get involved. I think that's important. I think one of the lessons that we learned in 1983 was that people were excited, people were hopeful. And I think, that is also part of the patrol of a democracy when people are part of that process. The more people that are involved, the better leadership people, the better we'll have. So once you have a general mass of people, you have a lot more intelligent people in that. So you need to pick the true leaders in that group. But we need to, first of all, start having that conversation between ourselves. As far as I'm concerned, Nigeria is a youthful country, and once the young ones, once they say we're the future of Nigeria, but I think that future is now, and I think we need to now take ownership of this, this collective wealth that we have, and see how we can create a Nigeria that is, that is centered around justice, equity, and fairness. We're so many people now that we need to create that enabling environment for anybody and everybody, no matter where they're from and who they are. I think the 1993 elections showed that we are not really as divided as people think we are. And if you saw that book launch as well, there were everybody that you saw the Nigeria basically in the hall. Different people from different parts of the country were all celebrating IBB. So I think that shows that at the top we're not divided. And also us that the people, we should also try to look for the things that bring us together. And I think that just generally, just being a Nigerian and living in Nigeria, we all know where what is communal with everybody. So what we need to do is work towards enhancing those things. Talk about the things that are communal and not look at the things that divide us. I think once we start to do that, we'll start to get that kind of democracy that we all want, and the kind of democracy that would also honor the sacrifices that had happened in the past. It's also part of the healing process, like I said.
I referenced that particular election because then it was a Muslim ticket, and then we had a similar structure in 2023, and that caused a lot of division among major ethnic groups in the country, and of course religious bodies. So I was expecting you to talk to that so that we can do things better in 2027 without thinking about religion.
Actually, because you have to understand that there were different times. It was totally different times. That's why I don't want to compare 1993 to 2023, because at 2023 we had a military government, a military head of state, and the people were fed up, and they were all united in the vision of, look, we need to have a democratic dispensation. So that was what basically coined that whole atmosphere. In 2023 it was really different. This was after successive governments had promised and not delivered. So people would now be a little bit wary already. They're wary that so now people are basically retreated to their own corners. Before, everybody from all parts of Nigeria came together for a common goal. The election was truncated in such a brutal and tragic way that basically everybody retreated to their own different corners, and so people now became wary of each other. And I think that was one of the things that we also lost in that whole saga and tragedy that happened in 1993. That we lost the moment that would have actually bonded the whole nation as one, and we would have been able to use that to forge towards the next level. But like I said, I don't think it's finished, because democracy is a fluid thing. What we need to do is strengthen we commit ourselves to the ideals of a true democracy and work towards it, and I think we'll get there.
Okay, Abdulmumini, many people also expected that if indeed Ibrahim Babangida was sober, at least he would have extended some kind of invitation to you and your brothers to be present at that unveiling of that book. What do you say to that?
Oh, well, like you see, the book is not about Abiola. The book is about Babangida and his years
But,
in
but, but
service.
somehow it's connected to Abiola and he made a confession.
Well, yeah, but then if you look at the book, I think there were like 12 chapters. Abiola was just, June 12 was chapter 12. It was just one out of the 12. What I'm telling you is that the book was not necessarily, it's because of that revelation that people are not talking about this. But the book was supposed to honor the former head of state. And I think they have accomplished what they wanted. Abiola wouldn't have been invited, because it wasn't, the book wasn't a book about Abiola. It wasn't about the book about June 12. It was a book about Babangida from when he was a child. It's an autobiography, like an autobiography of sorts. So, like, I didn't expect, but like I said, I'm only one member of the Abiola family. I don't know if any of my siblings had received an invitation and maybe did not attend, or because I haven't been able to find that out. So I don't know. It could have, we might have been invited. I'm not sure.
Okay, now that IBB came out in the open to confess that your dad actually won that election, which was annulled by him, would you expect the government of Nigeria to do anything as regards that, probably make your dad a posthumous president of Nigeria? Because without fairness, he won that election.
Yeah, I agree. I agree that he did. And, I don't know what the procedure is in this kind of matter, but I'm sure that the people who are more informed than I would probably have more to say. I don't know. For me, I think the most, like, Abiola had already secured his legacy for being so brave and courageous to stand for the people of Nigeria. And I think the people of Nigeria have honored him multiple times, and it's not necessarily about honoring somebody that will never be allowed to be honored. I think what we can do is listen to the message and try to, alleviate some of this poverty across the nation, and in doing some of these things that he would have wanted, maybe might be a way of, immortalizing him. But most of the times when things like this happen, like I just said, if this is to be true, then he would have been the president-elect of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. If that's the case, MK Abiola ceased to just be my father. He became the father of the nation. Now, I don't know what the procedure is, but then if you want to also put it into context, he died like 5 years after he would have been sworn in. So he would have probably done his first term. Then he would have been considered the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And I think it's incumbent on the state to protect his legacy and his estate. But like I said, I am not the one to
decide.
I don't know what the procedure is.
All right, Abdulmumini Abiola, we must thank you very much for your time on the Pendulum this evening.
Thank you for having me.
All right, that's Abdulmumini Abiola, one of the sons of late MKO Abiola, who won that 1993 presidential election, which was the fairest in the history of Nigeria. And we had a former head of state, Ibrahim Babangida, confessing last week that indeed MKO Abiola actually won that election. And there's been a lot of back and forth, criticism here and there, people saying that IBB shouldn't have waited for 32 years before coming out with that confession. That's the show this evening. We thank you very much for watching. We'll be back again next week at the same time. I am Ajibola Ojeshola.